Friends, the foreign ministry has been firm, stating that the stable and time tested partnership with Russia should not be viewed through the lens of any single country. This is a diplomatic way of saying that India's foreign policy is independent. But beyond the public statement, what are the India's real options? Let us discuss this further. We are living in a world of shifting alliances and high stakes of economics brinksmanship. And at the center of a new and dramatic standoff is India, a rising global power caught between two of the world's heavyweight, which are United States and Russia. The issue real is oil. The President Donald Trump's administration has just announced a sweeping 25% tariff on all Indian goods, a move that would already send shockwaves through the Indian economy. But he didn't stop there. He has also threatened the additional unspecified penalties, explicitly citing India's massive import of Russian oil as a key reason. In a post on his social media platform, he accused India of profiting from the war in Ukraine and showing no care for the human toll. This is more than just a trade dispute. It is a geopolitical test of wills. It forces India into a difficult position, challenging its strategic autonomy and its ability to balance its relationship with long-standing ally Russia and its most important new partner, which is United States of America. Over the next few minutes, we will dive deep into this complex issue. We are exploring why India is so reliant on Russian oil and what is a forced pivot would cost them, and what options the Indian government has on the headlines. And it's a story with billions of dollars and millions of livelihood at stake. To understand India's dilemma, we have to first understand its energy reality. India is the world's third largest oil consumer and importer, and its economy is highly sensitive to energy prices. For years, India relied on Middle Eastern nations like Iraq and Saudi Arabia for the bulk of its crude. But the war in Ukraine changed everything. When the Western nations imposed sanctions and boycotted Russian oil, Russia in turn offered it at a steep discount for India. So, for India, the country focused on managing inflation and massive energy import bill. This was an opportunity it could not ignore. The numbers tells the story. Before the conflict, in Russian oil made up a negligible 0.2% of Indian crude imports. Today, that number has skyrocketed to somewhere between 35 to 40%, making Russia's India's single largest oil supplier. This has been a massive financial win for India. Analysts from the firms like Kepler estimate that if India were to lose the price discount, its annual import bill could surge from 9 to 11 billion US dollars. This isn't just an abstract number. This is a money that would directly impact India's economy, potentially raising fuel prices for millions of citizens and making it harder for the government to manage the inflation. For Indian refineries, particularly private players like Reliance Industries and Niara Energies, Russian crude oil has been a golden ticket. It's not only cheaper, but it has also allowed them to refine the oil and export the finished product even to some of the countries that sanctioned Russia in the first place. This has been a source of significant profit and a boost to India's economy. So the reliance isn't the simple act of political solidarity. It's a practical economic decisions rooted in a desire to to secure affordable energy for developing nation of 1.4 billion people. And that's exactly why Trump's new tariff and penalties are so much more than just a blip on the radar. The pressure from the Trump administration comes from a clear and stated goal to force Russia to end the conflict in Ukraine. From the American perspective, India's purchase of Russian oil, even at a discount, is seen as financially supporting Moscow's war machine. The new tariff are a potential tool. The 25% tariff is a blanket tax on all Indian goods entering the US, which is India's 10th largest trading partner. The US is also India's top export market, with goods worth over 85 billion US dollars shipped through from India to US annually. The exports and the industries leader in India are already sounding the alarm. Sectors like textile, gems, pharmaceutical, and electronics are particularly vulnerable. A blanket tariff of this magnitude could make Indian exports uncompetitive, leading to order cancellation, job losses, and significant hit to India's GDP growth. Some economists predict a drop of up to 1% to India's financial growth in GDP for year 26 if this tariff remains. The situation is made even more precarious by a key detail in the new trade order. Unlike other nations, India has been denied any product specific exemption. This means even vital goods like pharmaceuticals, which are critical to the US healthcare system, will be hit with 25% tariff. This is a clear signal that the Trump administration is using the one size fit all approach to put the maximum pressure on India. The penalty for buying Russian oil adds another layer of uncertainty. While the exact amount has not been specified, the threat itself is enough to make many in the shipping and refining industry nervous. It raises the possibility of secondary sanction that could target the very lifeline of India's Russian oil trade and shipping, and also insurance and financing companies that make it possible. This is a deliberate and aggressive strategy, but how India is going to respond? India's response to the pressure has been a mixed defiance, a diplomacy, and strategic maneuvering. On the surface, the message is clear: India will not compromise on its national interests. Indian Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal, speaking in Parliament, highlighted India's status as the world's fastest growing major economy, and it is expected to rise to become the third largest economy. This was a direct counter to a recent social media post from President Trump, where he called India, is a dead economy, which is not true at all. The Foreign Ministry has been firm, stating that its stable and time-tested partnership with Russia should not be viewed through the lens of any single country. This is a diplomatic way of saying that India's foreign policy is independent. But beyond the public statement, what are the India's real options? Let's discuss this. Option 1, diplomatic high ground, and that is India could try to use diplomacy to negotiate a middle ground. This would involve leveraging its strong bilateral relationship with US and framing its Russian oil purchase as a matter of economic necessity, not political alignment. It could point to its historical defense ties with Russia and its need for a stable energy supply. The goal should be or would be to secure a phased reduction of Russian oil import, allowing time to diversify its energy sources, rather than a sudden economical painful halt. Option 2, which is the economic pivot that India could use under the pressure, and it began to significantly reduce its reliance on Russian oil. In fact, there is already some evidence of this. Some reports suggest that India's state-run refineries have already started cutting back on Russian crude import in recent months, possibly anticipating this pressure. India could increase its import from the traditional suppliers in the Middle East, West Africa, even the United States. This would be a costly move as it would mean losing the lucrative discount from Russia. But it would elevate the next response from the or the threat of US tariff and potentially secondary sanctions. Now, option number 3, the retaliatory stance that India could choose to respond, which is kind of imposed its own tariff on American goods. This would be a dangerous game of trade war, etc. While India's export to the US are significant, the US is also a major market for Indian services, particularly IT. Any retaliatory measure could escalate the conflict, hurting both economies and potentially leading to a broader breakdown in partnership that both countries have worked hard to build. Option number 4, Make in India acceleration. A fourth, more strategic option is to double down on self-reliance. Prime Minister Modi is making sure that the Make in India, which is also known as Atmanirbhar Bharat, for English listeners, self-reliant India, this program could be a long-term answer. By reducing its dependence on global supply chain and boosting domestic manufacturing, India could insulate itself from this type of external pressure in the future. In a recent rally, Modi emphasized the need to prioritize things made by sweat of Indians, a clear message that resonates with the domestic audience and serves as a rallying cry in the face of foreign pressure. India's choice is a tough one. The tariffs are real, the economic risks are substantial, and the geopolitical landscape is more volatile than it has been in decades. The US is using its economic power to enforce its foreign policy goals, and India is asserting its right to make decisions based on its own national interests. The path forward will likely involve a combination of these options. We can expect India to continue its diplomatic overtures while also quietly diversifying its energy sources. The tariffs are a negotiating tactic, and both sides have a lot to lose if this turns into a full-blown trade war. The key will be to see if a compromise can be reached that allows India to save face, secure its energy needs, and avoid a major economic fallout. The outcome of this standoff will not only define the future of the US-India relationship, but it will also send a powerful message to the rest of the world about the limits of economic coercion and the rise of a new assertive, strategically independent India. Friends, if you have any comments, leave them in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you again in the next one.